Ever tried to explain what you believe, like deep down, but without actually saying it, just through how you live your day?
That's a tough one.
Yeah, it's a real challenge, isn't it?
It is.
Well, that's kind of what we're tackling today.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, we're diving into this source. It's called Living to Glorify God. 7 practical ways to reflect his glory daily.
Okay, 7 ways, got it.
Exactly. 7 ways to kind of weave faith into, just normal everyday stuff.
And what's interesting is that the source really emphasizes consistency. It's not about those big, showy things.
Right, not like a one-time grand gesture or something.
Right, exactly.
It's more like those small choices, the stuff you do every day that adds up over time.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it's like, how can your actions, even the tiny ones, show what you believe even without saying a word?
I like that.
Yeah, and the very first thing they talk about, the first step, is all about how you start your day.
Okay, like a morning routine.
Kind of, yeah. They specifically highlight the idea of morning prayer or worship, and they even pull a quote from the Bible, Psalm 5.3.
I'm familiar with that one, about seeking God early.
Exactly.
And I think it's worth asking why this might be so powerful,
Oh, absolutely.
Because it's not about checking off some religious box. It's bigger than that.
It is.
Like, imagine, before all the craziness of your day hits, you take even a minute to connect to something bigger.
It's almost like setting your compass before you even leave the house, right?
Right.
Does that actually change how you approach the rest of the day, do you think?
Potentially, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Because now everything you do, every choice you make, it's seen through this lens of purpose.
Like it all means something.
Like
Not just about getting through the day, but about reflecting a bigger commitment.
I like that. I like that a lot.
All right, so we've got the foundation set with intention, right?
Yeah.
Starting strong. And the source moves on to point number 2, which is working with excellence.
Okay.
And they use a quote from Colossians 3.23 where it says, to work for the Lord, not for human masters.
Okay, so not just trying to impress your boss.
Right, exactly. And here's where they give this powerful example. Imagine you have a chance to cut corners.
Ooh, tempting.
I know, right? Maybe even bend the rules a little to get ahead at work.
Uh-huh.
On the surface, it seems great, like, yeah, advantage.
Right.
But what happens when your ambition bumps up against what you believe?
That's a tough one.
Because, so many of us are wired for that success, climb the ladder,
For sure.
But if your faith is telling you integrity comes first, suddenly the choice isn't so simple.
No, it's not just about the outcome anymore.
Right.
It's the how, the process.
The process.
Choosing to do things well, even when nobody's looking.
Yeah, almost like each task, no matter how small, becomes a chance to express your faith,
Exactly. And that commitment to doing it right, not compromising your values, that reflects something much deeper.
It really does.
Yeah.
So we've got intention setting the stage. We've got excellence in how we work.
Right.
What about those just everyday interactions with people? That's where point number 3 comes in, kindness.
Kindness, okay.
And it's not just being nice. It goes deeper than that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the source brings in Matthew 5.16.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that one.
Oh, it's that verse about letting your light shine so that others can see your good works.
Okay.
And what's so cool here is how subtle it is.
Oh.
It's not about being a pushover or always trying to please everyone.
Right.
It's about letting your actions speak for themselves.
Okay.
Like, imagine someone's watching you go through your day, how you treat a stranger,
Yeah.
how you react when you get frustrated, even little stuff.
Right.
And they see something different, not just politeness, but a genuine care,
I do, yeah.
Like, it makes them wonder, why is this person like this?
It sparks curiosity.
Exactly. It's not about pushing your beliefs on anyone. It's about letting your actions raise questions.
Like planting seeds.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
Because sometimes the most powerful way to share your faith is just by living it well, right?
That's true.
So kindness becomes this outward expression. And then we hit point number 4, which builds on this. Gratitude.
Okay, gratitude, I like that.
Yeah, the source gives a nod to 1 Thessalonians 5.18, giving thanks and everything.
Yeah, a lot of wisdom there.
But then they offer this really practical tip, keeping a gratitude journal.
Okay.
It might sound simple, but think about it. You're intentionally shifting your focus.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, instead of dwelling on what's wrong, you're actively looking for what's right.
Even when things are tough.
Even when things are tough, you're looking for those little bits of good.
Yeah, that's when it's hardest, isn't it?
It is. That's the challenge, right? Life isn't always perfect.
No, it's not.
So how does this practice, this intentional searching for good, actually change how we see things.
Well, think about it this way.
Mm.
If you're always focused on the negative, it can become a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Oh, like you only see the bad stuff.
Yeah, you start to see the world through a lens of, like, scarcity.
Not enough, yeah.
Yeah, but when you're cultivating gratitude, you're training your brain to notice the abundance.
Even in the little things.
Yeah, the smallest things.
So it's almost like rewiring your thinking, choosing to see the good even when it's hidden.
Exactly, and that shift in perspective, it can change everything.
Yeah, it really can.
It's not about pretending the bad stuff isn't there.
Right.
It's about choosing to focus on the good, even in the middle of the storm.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So we've got gratitude shifting how we see the world, but now we come to a point some people might find a little intimidating, sharing the gospel.
Yeah, that could be tough.
It can, right?
Mhm.
The source mentions Mark 16:15, that verse about going out and preaching to everyone.
Yeah, preach the good news.
But then they offer this really important point for people who might feel overwhelmed by that, you know?
I do, yeah.
It's not about becoming a street preacher or forcing your beliefs on others.
no. Yeah.
It's about finding genuine ways to share your faith, ways that feel natural and real to you.
Right, like being yourself.
Exactly. So maybe it's just starting a conversation with a friend about something you care about,
Yeah, something meaningful.
or just living in a way that shows your values and makes other people curious.
I like that.
It goes back to that intention we talked about at the beginning, right?
Right.
Aligning your actions with your beliefs, even in the small stuff.
Because sometimes the most powerful witness is a life that reflects those things.
Right.
Love, compassion, integrity.
It's letting your actions do the talking.
Powerful.
Yeah. So we've covered gratitude, sharing our faith, and now we get to a point that really surprised me.
Now, what's that?
Self-care as a spiritual act.
Self-care, huh? Interesting.
I know, right? And they quote 1 Corinthians 6:19-20 about your body being a temple of the Holy Spirit.
Right, I know that one.
And they do this cool thing. They challenge us to rethink how we view self-care altogether.
Oh, in what way?
It's not about vanity or chasing after those quick hits of pleasure. It's about stewardship.
Stewardship, okay.
Like if you believe your body is a vessel for something sacred, something bigger than you, how does that change the choices you make?
I'm thinking about that, yeah.
It becomes less about indulging yourself and more about honoring the gift you've been given.
Right.
Like, think about it. Would you just let a temple fall apart, neglect it?
No, you take care of it.
You would. You'd want to keep it in top shape.
Yeah, keep it functioning.
And they're saying that same principle applies to our bodies.
Interesting.
Making sure we get enough sleep, eating healthy, moving our bodies.
It becomes a form of worship, almost.
It does, doesn't it? Like those choices become acts of honoring that sacred space within.
That makes a lot of sense.
So it's like taking care of your physical and mental well-being actually becomes an expression of your faith.
Powerful, yeah.
It is. It's about recognizing how connected everything is, you know? Our physical selves, our emotional selves, our spiritual selves. It's all intertwined.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so self-care reframed, and now we come to the final point.
Okay, number 7.
Number 7, ending the day with reflection.
Interesting.
They use Psalm 63.6, talking about meditating on God throughout the night, but then...
They bring it back to something we can actually do.
They do.
Like what? They talk about like journaling or just quiet time before you go to sleep.
Okay, so not just running through your to-do list for tomorrow.
Right. It's more like taking a minute to think, did what I do today match up with what I said I wanted to do?
Kind of like a spiritual check-in.
Yeah. Did I live out what I believe?
I like that.
And that honest look at yourself, that's where the real growth happens.
Because you can see where you need to improve, right?
Exactly. Where can I make better choices tomorrow that are more in line with what I value?
It's not about beating yourself up for messing up.
No.
It's more like, okay, I messed up there. What can I do differently next time?
Exactly. And that's where grace comes in, right?
Grace. Understanding that we're all on a journey, we're going to stumble.
We're not perfect.
Right. But the beauty is in trying and turning back to that intention to live a life that honors something bigger.
I love that.
Yeah.
This is so insightful. I feel like we've barely scratched the surface of these 7 points.
There's a lot to unpack there.
But before we go deeper, let's just make sure we're all on the same page.
Good idea.
So we started with intention, using Psalm 5.3 as inspiration to seek a higher purpose right from the start.
Right, setting that foundation.
And then we talked about how working with excellence, even in the smallest tasks, can actually be a reflection of our faith.
That was Colossians 3.23.
Yeah.
About Working for the Lord, not just for human approval.
Exactly, yeah. And then there was kindness in those everyday interactions.
Right, using Matthew 5.1 seed as a reminder to let our actions speak louder than words.
Yeah, to inspire others to see something different in us.
Exactly.
And then we got into gratitude, even when things are tough.
That was 1 Thessalonians 5.18, and how looking for things to be grateful for can change our whole perspective.
Shifting from scarcity to abundance.
Yeah, powerful stuff.
And we even tackled that sometimes scary idea of sharing the gospel.
It can be intimidating.
It can. We talked about Mark 16.15, but emphasized that it's not about forcing your beliefs on others.
It's about finding authentic ways to let your faith shine through.
Right, through how you live, how you interact with people.
Exactly.
Then we even flipped the script on self-care, calling it a spiritual act.
Using 1 Corinthians 6.19-20 about our bodies being temples of the Holy Spirit.
And how taking care of ourselves can be an expression of our faith.
Honoring that sacred space within.
Exactly. And finally, we discussed ending the day with reflection.
That was Psalm 63.6. And how taking a few moments to assess our actions and intentions can help us grow.
To make more conscious choices moving forward.
Yeah, powerful stuff. That was a good recap.
It was. It's amazing how interconnected all these points are.
They really do build on each other. It's like a tapestry of a life lived with purpose.
It is. It is.
But for you, what resonates most?
You know, I keep coming back to that challenge at the end of the source. If someone was watching you go through your day, would they see your faith?
Even without you saying anything about it.
Yeah, that's powerful.
It is. Makes you think, are we really living this out or just talking about it?
Walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Exactly. That's where it gets real. In those everyday moments, those small choices.
Where our faith comes alive.
It's like that quote, we can do no great things, only small things with great love.
Because those little acts of kindness, those moments of choosing integrity over convenience,
they all add up to something much bigger.
It's like a ripple effect. One good deed inspiring another and another.
Spreading out in ways we can't even imagine.
And when those actions come from a place of wanting to honor something bigger than ourselves,
that's where the magic happens.
It's like those choices become expressions of something much bigger, a testament to our belief in something more.
I like that.
But how do we bridge that gap between intention and action?
Right. Because it's one thing to talk about it, it's another to actually do it.
Especially in our busy, crazy lives.
That's the million-dollar question, and I don't think there's one answer for everyone.
Right.
But I do think it starts with awareness.
Awareness, okay.
Once we get these principles, once we see how our everyday choices can reflect our faith,
then we can start making more deliberate decisions.
Exactly.
So it's about paying attention, being present in those moments.
And asking yourself, what would it look like to act from a place of love, integrity, purpose right now?
Right here, right now.
Yeah, maybe it's choosing patience in traffic instead of getting frustrated.
Or helping a coworker who's struggling.
It's about those little chances to weave our faith into our daily lives.
And remembering we're not alone in this, right?
Oh, absolutely not.
The source talked about seeking God early in the morning, and that reminds me of prayer.
Yeah. And the power of connecting with other people who believe.
That support system is so important.
It makes a difference when you're feeling lost or discouraged.
It's like having a spiritual cheering section.
I love that.
Reminding us why we're doing this, helping us get back on track when we stumble.
It's so true.
It is.
It's amazing how something as simple as choosing to start our day with intention can have such a huge impact on everything else.
It's true. Those small choices make a difference.
And even in all the craziness of life, we still have the power to choose how we respond.
To choose how we interact with the world around us.
And how we show our beliefs through our actions.
Yeah, that's powerful.
This has been so great, but before we wrap up, I want to hear from you, our listener.
What's resonating with you from these 7 ways to live out your faith?
And what's one small thing you can do this week to put these ideas into practice in your own life?
We'll give you a moment to think about that.
Excellent.
And we'll be right back with some final thoughts. Okay, so we're back, and I'm still kind of chewing on that question we asked before.
Yeah, about whether someone could see our faith just by watching us.
Exactly. It's easy to, get caught up in the ideas, nod along and be like, yeah, that sounds good.
Right. The theory's all nice and neat.
But the real test is actually doing it, right?
Yeah.
Taking these ideas and actually making them part of how we live.
It's like the difference between reading about baking a cake and actually getting in the kitchen and doing it.
Oh, I like that.
You can admire the pictures in the cookbook, but until you're mixing the batter and, getting flour everywhere,
It's not real.
you haven't truly experienced it.
So how do we go from just observing this to being part of it, to living this out.
I think a good place to start is figuring out what we're most drawn to.
Yeah, where our passions and these ideas kind of meet.
Exactly. Like maybe you're just naturally good at encouraging people.
You're a people person.
Yeah, so kindness and sharing your faith comes easily to you.
Right.
Or maybe you find peace in being quiet and reflective.
Introvert.
So starting your day with intention, ending it with journaling, that feels right for you.
It's about figuring out what works for you.
Exactly, playing to your strengths.
But what about the stuff we're not so good at?
Oh, yeah, that's the real challenge.
Like, what if patience is something I'm still working on?
Or self-care always ends up at the bottom of the to-do list.
That's where that grace comes in, right?
It does.
Remember we talked about this being a journey, not a finish line.
We're going to mess up sometimes.
Yeah, we're not perfect.
Our actions won't always match up with what we want.
But instead of beating ourselves up,
We can learn from those times.
use it to grow.
It's about being curious, being kind to ourselves instead of, judging ourselves harshly.
Not expecting perfection.
Right, and that's where having those people around us who get it, who believe like we do, can really help.
That community we talked about.
Yeah, they can encourage us, keep us accountable.
Remind us of what we're aiming for when we're struggling. Like a spiritual safety net.
I like that, yeah.
We fall, they're there to help us get back up.
It makes a big difference.
It really does.
And as we go through this, it's good to remember that, glorifying God isn't about racking up points.
Not about being perfect.
It's about aligning ourselves with something bigger than ourselves.
And letting that purpose guide our actions.
Exactly. It's about letting go of that pressure to perform.
And just being okay with being loved and accepted for who we are right now.
You said that perfectly.
When we come from that place of love and acceptance,
Yeah.
it becomes less about trying so hard and more about just surrendering.
Trusting that God is working through us, even in the tiniest moments.
Even when we don't realize it.
Yeah, exactly.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation.
It really has.
We've explored these 7 practical ways to live a life that honors God, not as strict rules,
Right?
but as a way to live out our faith, We talked about starting with intention, working with excellence,
Choosing kindness, gratitude,
sharing our faith in authentic ways, self-care as a spiritual act.
and ending the day with reflection.
And all along, we've emphasized grace, self-compassion, community,
Yeah, those are essential.
as we go through this journey of faith.
It's a lifelong journey.
So, as we wrap up, we want to leave you with one final thought.
Think back to that question. If someone was watching you,
Could they see your faith without you having to say a word?
let that question stay with you this week.
Use it as a little nudge to make choices that line up with your values, to let your light shine.
To live a life that honors something greater than yourself.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It was great having you.
Until next time, may your days be filled with purpose, grace, and the joy of living authentically.